From a bold idea in 1950 to a global tour with players from across all 5 continents, this is the story of the LPGA Tour. For 75 years, the tour has changed golf and broken down barriers that at the time of its founding, people never thought was possible for women. So let's travel through the decades of the LPGA Tour and explore this amazing organization that's super rich in history.
No hymen, no diamond, drizzle, drizzle.
The LPGA Tour was founded in 1950 at Rolling Hills Country Club in Wichita, Kansas by a group of 13 women who literally built the tour from the ground up. They not only played in the events, they promoted the events, arranged dates, wrote checks. They even maintained the courses in order to keep the tour going. Those founders included names like Patty Berg, Babe Didrikson Zaharias, Louise Suggs, Marilyn Smith, and others who were already stars in women's golf. Their work created what is widely recognized today as the longest running women's professional sports organization. Early purses were tiny by today's standards, travel was long and often uncomfortable, and players did everything themselves, but the LPGA's survival through the decades established the tour's culture, hustle, grit, and relentless promotion of women's golf. Now we're jumping over the 1960s. The 60s were dominated by one name, Mickey Wright. She enjoyed an extraordinary run, and from 1961 to 1964, she won 44 tournaments, including a record 13 victories in 1963, still the single-season LPGA record. Wright's swing is still taught today as one of golf's purest. This decade also saw important steps off of the leaderboard. Althea Gibson, who had been a tennis champion, became the first African-American woman to join the LPGA in 1964, breaking another barrier in American sport and expanding the LPGA's reach. The 60s were a time of social change in the US, and the LPGA's growth and emerging stars, from Mickey Wright to Betsy Rawls, helped professional women's golf gain legitimacy and visibility. So we then jump over to the 1970s, and this is known as an era of corporate sponsorship and new stars. The 1970s marked the beginning of a major corporate backing era. Companies like Colgate put significant money into LPGA events, mostly through the Colgate Dinah Shore Tournament, which launched in 1972 and would later evolve into one of the LPGA's major championships. Those sponsorships increased purses and media attention, which changed the economics of the tour. Stars of the era included Joanne Carner, who in 1971 became the first player to win the U.S. Girls Junior, U.S. Women's Amateur, and the U.S. Women's Open, which is a rare triple crown of junior and amateur U.S. titles. We also had Nancy Lopez, who burst into the scene in 1978 and would become one of the biggest names in women's sports history. The 70s also gave us dramatic moments like long playoffs. We had our longest playoff ever happen, 10 holes, and first in international competition. The LPGA at this time was starting to look much more like a global stage. As we get to the 80s, we saw so much dominance, diversity, and so many legacies were left behind and so many records were set. So the 1980s blended dominance with increasing global participation. Legends like Nancy Lopez, Patty Sheehan, Beth Daniel, Betsy King, and Julie Inkster were household names in golf. Kathy Whitworth, whose career stretches back decades, had accumulated 88 LPGA Tour wins, still the most of any player in professional golf, men or women, and she became the first LPGA player to earn $1 million in career prize money. This decade helped to solidify the LPGA as a global tour and set records and traditions that still hold today. From scoring titles to trophy room legacies, they are all there and they're still sitting from the 80s. Now in the 90s is when we start seeing the huge global expansion in our giant rise of Asian stars. There were a time of transformation for the LPGA, and the LPGA truly became global with players from Sweden, South Korea, Australia, and beyond. And a big representation about what the tour looked like at this time is the Solheim Cup was actually started in 1990, and that really shows how global the tour was. And this immediately became a showcase event for women's golf. In 1998, Sayuri Pak had her dramatic U.S. Women's Open win, including her iconic water shot that we've covered on this channel. This set off an explosion of interest in golf across South Korea and Asia. Her success inspired a generation of players and helped change the global demographics of the tour. The decade also saw rising stars like Annika Sorenstam, Carrie Webb, and strong American contenders such as Dottie Pepper and Meg Mallon and Rosie Jones, all pushing standards higher and higher. Now, the 2000s were known as a time of power and fitness. We saw this on the PGA Tour as well. And this era was often called the power era. Training, fitness, and technology changed how players prepared and competed. Annika Sorenstam was dominating. She logged 54 LPGA Tour wins overall, and in 2001 shot a historic 59, the first 59 in LPGA competition, a round that still remains legendary. Lorena Ochoa dominated mid-2000s. She won 27 times on tour, and she held the number one spot in the Rolex rankings for a record 158 consecutive weeks, which was actually founded in 2006. So pretty much from the time that it was founded, she held that spot for 158 consecutive weeks. The Women's British Open was also played at St. Andrews in 2007, and it was the first time this has ever been played at St. Andrews. So it was a super symbolic step for women's golf on one of golf's most hallowed grounds. And like I said, in 2006, the Rolex rankings were also rolled out, and this helped us kind of measure the success and the seedings of the majors and the players and seeing where everybody stood, just like the men. Now we get into the 2010s. This is now golf's global tour, and the Olympics returns. In the 2010s, the LPGA cemented its role as golf's global tour. Young talent like Lydia Ko, Lexi Thompson, and Brooke Henderson arrived while legends continued to compete. Golf returned to the Olympics in 2016, and LPGA players dominated the podium. In-B Park won gold, Lydia Ko silver, and Shen Feng won bronze, an Olympic showcase for women's golf. Shen Feng became the first Chinese player to win an LPGA major, and Lydia Ko won multiple events on the LPGA Tour as an amateur. She became the youngest winner on the LPGA Tour. These results underscored the LPGA's increasingly international and youthful talent pool. Now, the 2020s are known as a time of resilience, growth, and recognition. The 2020s started with a disruption. The COVID-19 pandemic paused play and forced new protocols, but the LPGA rebounded strongly. Prize money climbed dramatically, and the tour surpassed $100 million in prize money. In 2025, it's reported that the total is closer to $131 million, reflecting growing sponsorship and global TV exposure. Off the course, recognition followed. In 2024, all of the 13 founding members who weren't already inducted into the Hall of Fame were inducted as a group to make sure that everybody made it in, and they were really given the credit they deserve for how big of an impact they had on golf. Today, the LPGA is a diverse international tour with a deep pool of talent, substantial purses, major championships on iconic courses, and a legacy of breaking down barriers that still stands today and still inspires so many women to get into the game and play it competitively. Let me know what you think in the comments, and check out my page for some more videos just like this.